My pleasure to introduce our resource person for the second session. We have with us Professor Dr. Sudhakar Umle, who is presently giving his services as Professor of Mechanical and Mechatronics in the Department of Engineering, Thakur College of Engineering, Mumbai, India. With a teaching experience of 35 years, he is a doctorate in material science from VNIT Nagpur, with specialization in automobile and combustion engineering, and more than 50 international publications. And he has guided more than 50 MTech students, and many PhD students are working under his supervision at the moment. Being a renowned academician in his field, he has conducted and coordinated more than 14 courses and has been a resource person in more than 115 FDP and STTPs. To add more, he is a life member of ISTE and ISNT and has been awarded with the Best Teacher Paper Award 2015 by Indian Institute of Foundry Men, Say India Guru Award 2016 and 17, as well as he is an active participator in series of academic activities as a technical judge, chairperson, reviewer, editorial board, member, advisory committees, and many, many more. And he will be enlightening us on the topic thesis writing and planning. A very warm welcome to you, sir. The session is all yours.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're perfectly audible, sir.
Thank you very much for introduction, brief introduction.
Thanks, sir.
So shall I share my PPT?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can.
My PPT is visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
It is in full mode?
Yes,
full,
sir.
Okay. So thank you very much. My topic is thesis writing and planning. Good evening, all of you, dear participants. Dr. Regins Sylvest, President of Cape Chromium Trust of India, President Lavender Literacy Club, and Malaysian Industrial Relations and Human Resource Association, Malaysia. Welcome all to my lecture on thesis writing and planning. I have chosen this topic because writing a thesis is a significant part of PhD program. The original research is presented as a thesis at the end of their course. And a thesis, therefore, is the written evidence of the efforts that are well written, significantly accurate, and understandable. Thesis writing is challenging for researchers. The researcher must have in-depth knowledge of the research methodology. The researchers would be very clear about their topics, the objectives, and the other methods. Hence, they must have an interest in that particular area. They would start from the basics of the thesis, like a title page and abstract. They should know the importance of plagiarism and grammar checking. Doing a literature review provides in-depth knowledge of a particular field. The research candidate will be awarded a doctorate or PhD upon completion of thesis writing completely. To complete the thesis, research methodologies is essential. Before start of writing thesis, I want to explain some questions. What are the important questions we require before start of writing? Before starting the thesis, we require planning and strategy for writing good work. Write your project reports like a scientist or professional writer. Writing is an important tool for success. I have some questions to you, and if you follow, definitely you are able to write a good thesis. Do you have the motivation and commitment? This is first question. Do you have reading and writing skills? This is second question. What is the exact date of submission? What are the rules about the format? So these four questions are very important before writing. And if you are able to answer it, definitely you are able to write good thesis. I want to explain some of the thesis meaning. Thesis is a communication between the researcher and the rest of the world. Because your work is reading many people of the same area, and hence you are communicating your research work to all over the world. It has to give the reader a good understanding of the work done and appreciation of the research. The thesis must be very well structured and well designed to do this. A thesis, therefore, is the written evidence of the efforts put in by a student for the length of their program. In addition to writing the thesis, several associated activities should be considered, such as presenting your work at conferences, writing a scientific paper. So you are not writing only thesis, you are writing your publications, journals, scientific paper, and we require all this for the completion of the PhD. And hence, I have again some importance uh, I want to explain something about. So I want to explain one of the good question to you. What are the theme, purpose, and main objective of the research? This is the very important question to you. How to write theme of the project or thesis, purpose of the thesis, main objective of the your research. You have to note down. And another is that what is the thesis? Hypothesis. It should be scientific research. What might the research lead to or useful for? This is the very important question. What is the leading research work, or whether it is useful for anybody, and hence you have to explain in your research work. And I want to explain the introduction of PhD work. So it may be PG, postgraduate course. It may be for PhD students want to know what does a dissertation or thesis look like. So definitely everybody wants a good thesis or good dissertation, and you are able to write it when you know each and everything. There are variations in writing a thesis among universities, departments, and even thesis committees and faculty members. In every universities, the pattern is totally different, and according to their pattern, you have to set your writing work. PhD students recognize the need for some skeletal structure to assemble the researchers' ideas, data, and conclusions. So this is very important. So what is your ideas? What are the data collections and what are the conclusions? I will cover all these things. So you before that you must understand exactly what is research. Research For research we require the inspiration, motivation, because we are calling it as a fundamental ingredients. If you are not inspired person or motivated, then you are not able to complete the research work or writing work. Without proper research and motivation, it is very difficult to conduct research. The research is a mixture of inspiration, that is hypothesis generation. First, you have to generate the hypothesis, and that could be generated by your inspiration. And second is that rational thinking. So what is meant by rational thinking? It is nothing but design and execution of crucial experiments, analysis of results in terms of existing theory. And after completing all these hypotheses and crucial experiments, you have to select a suitable topic. That is the first step of writing thesis. Selection of suitable topic is the first major step in writing a report. And hence, successful thesis writing can be represented in different steps. I will explain some different steps for writing. These are selection of suitable research area, assess the availability of facilities, infrastructure, and resources. Consider obtaining support and grants for research. Prepare the objectives. Conduct research as per the study design. Collect data and storage of data. Analysis, arranging and sequencing of the materials. Writing the thesis. Editing the thesis content. Editing for language. Avoiding ambiguity in data presentation. Checking for plagiarism. Copyright. Acknowledgements. Disclosure, and conflicts of the interest. So these are very important to you during writing. I will cover all this that I have told. Before topic selections, I want to explain some few things to you. I will provide an extensive discussion of the contents of the technical report and try to offer you recommend format. The thesis should be concise, accurate, and complete as possible. Writing a technical report begins with planning the work on which the information is based. And hence, the planning is very important, and what that planning I will discuss later on. How to select the topic first. That is the first step of the writing. You should begin your topic selection by identifying 2 or 3 broad areas in which many different types of research may be pursued. As soon as you select a broad study area, it would be best if you immersed yourself in the literature published and available in that area. The first step in the thesis writing is to choose the appropriate research area. The research topic should be the particular specialty thrust area. This is very important. Specialty thrust area you must have, and relevant to the existing knowledge gap. So you have to find out the existing knowledge gap. I will explain how to find the existing knowledge gap in my next slides. And hence you have the some criteria for topic selections. Before that, it is essential to remember that report writing is an integral part of the thought process. So thought process you have to develop during selection of criteria. It helps to define and order ideas and to derive a well considered conclusions, so that further planning of the work can be undertaken. And these are the 5 important criteria for topic selection of your thesis. Interest. Your interest is very important. If your interest is not good, or it is not matching with your work, then you are not able to write very successfully. Second is the significance of the project. I will explain what is the significance. Available data, knowledge and skills. You must have the knowledge and skills of that particular area. How do you manage? That is called as manageability. How do you manage your thesis writing? The funding required for the completion of your research. If the funding is not proper, you are not able to complete your thesis. So this interest is depending on 2 criteria. That is a professional interest and personal interest. So professional interest is related to the research area, and personal interest is that is your area. Significance is very important. Can you conduct independent research? Independent research is very important because you are doing alone. Significantly contribute to that area. Check whether the topics related to. I want to explain 6 significance areas to you. You have to understand that. Your contribution to developing new theory. Are you able to develop the new theory? Yes or no? Then testing of existing theory. If the theory is available, you have to test that theory. Third is investigation of new principles. Fourth is challenges in the assumptions. Fifth is development of any mathematical model or phenomena. And last, that is any other recent developments. So this is very important for significance of the body. I want to explain again some questions to you before writing significance of your study in the thesis writing. It creates some of the questions related to your work. Why is my study important? Does my study develop a new knowledge? Does it has practical applications? These 3 questions are very important for completion of your significance of the project writing. And come to the next, that is available data. So what is available data? So available data, that is the ability to collect data needed for your study, is a major considerations. Here you collect data first and then select your topic. If you don't have any type of available data, then you are not able to find out your correct topic of your project. Knowledge and skills are very important. Your work topic must be selected as per your knowledge and skills. Here you can save your time in research. The main advantage, you can talk report contents knowledgeably. Your skill is very important in conducting some research techniques. Some work requires specific knowledge and skills that you may have. And another is manageability. Manageability, how you manage, because we have limited time for completion and writing work, and hence manageability is very important in managing or organizing your literature review. This will help you to produce a specific problem statement with an association with the theory of the statements. This is also important to manage the time required to complete your report. We need the experience of writing all chapters. Here, I suggest you select a topic so that you can complete your work project and report writing within a year. And last is the funding. The funding is required for, and it is financial constraint greatly limit the scope of the research that you have decided. And after answering this, we have a selection of important chapters. You have to decide on essential chapter first. That may be introduction, literature review, methodology and experimental details, results, discussion, conclusions. These are the major important topics we require. So I will explain one by one all 5 important chapters. Before you write your introduction, you must know what research is first. Because for writing introduction, you must understand your research. Otherwise, you are not able to write introduction. You must select your research investigation for quantitative, qualitative, experimental, observation, and so on to solve your research problems. So research investigation is very important for writing introduction. Now, after getting the research investigation, we require the research analysis. And you must understand what is research analysis. Generally, thesis writing depends on selected hypotheses, selection of questions that you consider for research, answering those questions, finding correct solutions, and generating new knowledge from your research analysis. Validity of your research, reliability of your research, and conclusions of research are very much essential to writing a good thesis. Unfortunately, most PhD candidates find it difficult to finish their thesis on time because of confusions and lack of expertise. So you have to have some confusions during writing. Then it is very difficult. You have to clear your confusions, and you must have a complete expertise in your area. PhD candidates do not know how to write their thesis correctly and scientifically. This is very important. If you don't know how to write correctly and scientifically, then it takes time. They must know how and why objectives are required, because you have to start your project from finding objectives. The use of objectives give ideas about scientific writing. You may determine that quantitative analysis will suffix in answering your research questions or will respond to your purpose. On the other hand, you may conclude that is qualitative, the more profound understanding of the topic that responds to your purpose ultimately. You may decide that a mixed methods approach, because there are 3 types of analysis: qualitative, quantitative, or mixed. Generally, we are preferring mixed method approach during our project writing. Using both quantitative and qualitative analysis is the best method of inquiry for your thesis and dissertations. Data analysis is an essential component of any research study. How do you collect the data, and after that you have to do the analysis, and you have to do the data analysis very perfectly, and it is a essential components. And hence, after getting all these research analysis, you have to have a general structure of a thesis, and hence you have to find out the general structures. Generally, we have a 9 general structure of thesis. First is we have some mandatory pages. Second is introduction, literature review. Fourth is methodology or setup, result and discussion, summary and conclusions, references, acknowledgements, appendix. So this is the structure, and we will find how to write it. I will come to the mandatory pages. This includes title page, dedications. Dedication is not required, but you can add if any. Declaration, certification page, abstract, table of contents, list of figures, list of tables, and nomenclature. So these are very mandatories. If you are not writing each and everything, then your project may not be uh, accepted in the universities. It may be rejected. These are generally given a different page number in small Roman numericals. So putting the numbers is very important. Generally, we are preferring Roman numbers. After introduction, we have to use actual numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Next is the abstract. How to write the abstract? The abstract is generally written last of the completion of the project and has to around 800 to 1000 words. So we have to complete title first. What is the title? The title preferably not more than 15 words. So title is not so lengthy. We have to complete title within for 15 words. It should be specific, informative. Title must be specific and title must be informative. Descriptive title is commonly used for a thesis protocol. Interrogative title, that is introduction of your subject in the form of question. The title should not be in the form of questions. And interrogative title should not be accepted, and it may be avoided during selection of the titles. Cover page, it is very important. That is the first page, and it should be very thick. And the purpose of the cover page is to protect protection of the thesis and identify the report. On cover page, we have so many things. It must contain the title, initials and surnames of the authors, the date, the name of the department, name of the university emblem we are putting on the first. Then title of the report must be considered very carefully on the cover page. The good title is striking and reflects the contents of the report. I now come to the abstract. Abstract should create enough interest in the reader to read your entire thesis. If your abstract is wrongly written, the reader will not read your thesis very carefully, or reviewer also will not read very carefully. But it also should not have too many details. It should give a quick overview of the importance of your research topic and then cover the main issues of your current work and mention the general implications of your work. This is very important. General implications of the project we require in the abstract. Uh, it must summarize the contents and most of the important findings so the reader can decide whether they want to read the rest of the report or not. Every word is important in the abstract. When you write, each and every word must be selected in proper manner. Limit the use of words that do not convey important information to a minimum. Before start of your report, you have to take care of something. Before start of your chapter, generally you should complete the following contents. Title page, it includes your name, project title, department, institute name, and it may start with in partial fulfillment for the degree. This is the statement you have to write. Then abstract, it includes summary of studies like problem, purpose of the thesis, brief description of the methods, result and general conclusions we require. Then table of contents. Table of contents tells the reader where to find each chapter, subchapter, table, figures and appendix. A dedication is not necessary, but it is lovely thing to do. If you are giving dedication, it is good. Otherwise, it is not compulsory. Acknowledgement is very compulsory, and the acknowledgement section allows you to thank your guide, supporting staff, HOD, principal for their friendship, love, encouragement, support, guidance. I think it is tacky when people do not have an acknowledgement. Never forget where you came from or the people who supported you while you achieved success, and hence their names must be in the acknowledgements. I want to tell one thing about acknowledgement. This may or may not be read by the reviewers, but it is an essential part as it recognizes the contribution of everyone in your work. So then you have to prepare the abbreviation list. As you know, everybody, what is abbreviation, I will not explain in detail. A certificate we require, you know what is certificate. Detection of plagiarism. So nowadays it is very important to check the plagiarism. detection of plagiarism lead to rejection of the research work, penalty, and blacklisting in most of the published work, and hence you must have that. Next is the, and last is very important, nomenclature. The list of the symbols that are used must begin on a new page. The list is arranged in the following sequence. All the ordinary symbols are listed first, followed by the superscripts and then the subscripts. Finally, the auxiliary symbols are listed, such as overbar, underscore for vectors, and averages or ascent marks for time-dependent components. The following order must be used within each of these groups. Firstly, all the Roman letters in alphabetical order with the capital letters of each symbol before the small letters. For example, A is selected first, then small a, followed by B. So in this way, you are writing Roman letters, then capital letters, small letters, then all the Greek symbols in the order of Greek alphabet, capital letters before small letters. Finally, symbols begin with numbers in numerical order. So this is about nomenclature. Nomenclature writing is a skill and you have to adapt it. And I will come to the first chapter, that is introduction of thesis, how to write. Introductions, I have covered so many things regarding the compulsory writing, mandatory writing, and I will start now introductions. How to write introduction is very important. So this is an essential part of the thesis, as it will provide the first impression of the reader. It should start with giving the reader the motivation of your research work. It should set the context of your research very briefly. It should cover the work done so far and indicate the importance of your work. It should also give an overview of your results and the key findings. Towards the end of the introduction, one can briefly describe the structure of your thesis, as in what information is given in which chapter. So we require the structure, that is called as in some way it is called as organization of the introduction. So many words can be used in different universities. In our universities, it is called as structure of the thesis. So in the introduction, you have to write structure of the thesis. So in the structure, we have to explain what is important in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, like that. And introduction is the most challenging part of PhD thesis. A good introduction is critical to capturing your readers' attentions and engaging their interest in your research. So it is very important for during correction of your introduction by the supervisor, after that reviewers, and hence just I want to explain in terms of question what we require in that. So during writing of introduction, you must generate these questions: what is going to be done, what are you doing it, or who is likely to be interested in it, what exactly is the hypothesis or the problems, what is the possible use of the research, what is the research focus. So we have to answer of all in the introduction chapter. Then it must be very interesting if you answer these questions very seriously. The emphasis must be placed on the central chapters. So report is like a story. So you know the story of any movies or any books. So what is the our report is also, we have to make like story. It must have a beginning, it must have a middle, it must have a end of the thesis, but the middle is very actual story, because the middle part is very interesting, and interesting part must be very useful for the reader's point of view. The introduction must not be too long, and the appendices must not be overpower the central chapters. So how to write chapter 1, that is introduction. This is very important: purpose and significance of the study. In the introductions, you have to clear it. In the first chapter, clearly state what the purpose of the study is and explain the study significance. Already I have explained what are the significance, what are the purpose of the study. The significance is addressed by discussing how the study adds to the theoretical body of the knowledge in the field, and the studies practical significance for communication professional in the area being examined. PhD students must also explain how their research makes an original contribution to the body of knowledge in their discipline. Now this body writing is very important. When the PhD students wants to write his introduction, he must explain uh, his original contribution. He must not take copy and paste, and hence original contribution of the PhD candidate must be explained in their discipline. If he is a mechanical, he is civil or electrical, he have to explain according to his discipline. The PhD candidates also addressed the significance of the study for mass communication education. It is especially critical that this chapter be well developed. Without clearly defined purpose or firm theoretical groundings, the thesis or dissertation is fundamentally flawed. Every chapter should be focused on one topic. It should have a clear purpose. The title of the chapter normally reflects the purpose. Then come to the literature review. Literature review is the second chapter, and it is very important. This part gives the reader a broad understanding of all the research work already done in your area and how your work differs from theirs. So you have to explain what is your personal area and how your work differs than the others, and you have to explain in proper way. One should try to include as many relevant papers as possible. There should be, if there is a irrelevant good writing, there is no point in simply increasing the number of papers reviewed if they don't add value to what we are saying. So we want always value to the writing, and hence unnecessary papers should not be added. Papers that support your work must be highlighted. Otherwise, unnecessary papers will be rejected during writing. Uh, Ideas that are opposed to your work can also be mentioned. Suppose you are writing something and other papers are explaining that your writing is not matching with your writing. Then you have to explain why you are able to write, because it is completely opposite to references or literatures. Then you have to explain very proper reasons for changing your topic. But you should add why it is still a good idea to do your research. Even though it is opposing your research, you have to you have to give the good idea. In the end, one must conclude what you have understood from the literature survey and identify the research gap. Why we want a literature survey? Because after analysis of the literature survey, we come to the conclusions of our research gap. And for that research gap, we do the research and we complete our thesis. We should also explain briefly how you will try and address that gap in the respective chapters. So for completion of literature review, during writing, you must ask these questions yourself. What have others said, written or researched about your topic? So you have to complete this question. What have others said, written and researched about your topic? Suppose your topic is hydraulics, then you have to write about researchers of hydraulics related to your topic. Another is that what theories illuminate your topic. You are selecting similar theories that is very similar to your topic and that gives a focus of your topic. Third question is very important. How does the literature relate to your research questions? You are finding the literature review in such a way that your research question may be solved and you are getting the answer of it. And review of the literature is very important. The literature review thus describes and analyzes a previous research on the topic. This chapter should not merely string together what other researchers have found. Instead, you should discuss and analyze the body of knowledge with the ultimate goal of determining what is known and is not known about the topic. These determinations lead to your research questions and hypotheses. In some cases, you may determine that replicating previous research is needed. So, from what is important is that problem statement from all these literature review referring when you are referring all these references, literature review, and you are coming to the research gap. After finding the research gap, you come to the problem statement. Problem statement writing is very essential in the thesis writing. How to write the problem statement is the most important part of the researchers. So how to write a problem statement, I will explain very clearly. Problem statements are very important. After that, you have to write the research questions, hypotheses, and study contributions are very significant for PhD candidates. Otherwise, they are not able to complete PhD. Then you have to ask the question be investigated. So what is the question? What are the exact problems to be investigated? So these will get from the literature review, and you have to explain by you very carefully in your thesis writing. You have to ask one question to you again. Is it intended to discover new knowledge? Are you able to create new knowledge in your thesis, in your project? Another question is that what sources will be used during your investigations? So we have so many sources of getting knowledge, getting literatures from the handbooks, from the journals, from the books, and from different references. You have to investigate all for completion of the problem statements. Already I have explained this. Then you have to come to the third chapter, that is methodology, setup, experimental details. Generally, the following one or two chapters will be discussed, focused on explaining the methodology of your work. For experimental work, it can be description of the setup. If it is scientific work, we have to write the experimental details, instruments used, how you have measured various parameters, the calibration accuracies. We have to mention each and everything in the methodology chapters. For that, you have to write down each and everything during your experimentation. If you are not getting or forgetting to writing the correct readings, then it is very difficult to collect data and during analysis. When you are doing numerical works, it is also very important how to write the numerical work. For numerical work, it can focus on the algorithms used, software used, grid independence details we require. So this chapter should convince the reader that you have followed a robust methodology for carrying out your research. If you are doing that is the third part of methodology, that is mathematical correlations. If you are doing mathematical correlations, mathematical correlations may be used to show the degree of association between two or more variable chosen, and high correlations may allow predictions or point the way to experiments. Now we'll come to the actual research methodology. So what do you mean by research methodology? Understand very clearly what is exactly methodology. So you must understand these three questions. How will you approach empirical work? You search this question, you write in your notebook what style and techniques have been chosen for your writing research methodology and why. After getting this second question answer, what samples you are creating, why samples are required, test, observations, and measurements will be needed during research methodology. And how do you select your research methodology after getting these answers? Give complete justification of the research approach if required. Justifications of the research approach is very important. Otherwise, it may not be your original research. During this, you need to cover two areas: overall style of the research, actual techniques to be used within your work. Now, I want to explain the very important points regarding writing methodology. This chapter describes and justifies the data gathering method used. This chapter also outlines how you analyze your data. Begin by describing data method you choose and why this method was the most appropriate. In doing so, you must cite references, literature about the procedures. Next details every step of the data gathering and analysis process. So it is very important to explain data gathering and analysis of data. Although this selection varies depending on the method and analysis technique chosen, many of the following areas typically are addressed. First is a description of research design. So you have to explain a description of research design in the methodology. Justification of the type or justification for the type of sample used or method for selecting unit of observations. Third is development of instrument. Suppose there is no available instrument and you require the new instrument, new machines for the your PhD work, and you are developing it, and you have to write the complete development procedure of the instrument or method for making observations. After that, we have to describe the data analysis in the methodology chapter. And you come to the next important part, that is data analysis. During writing data analysis, we have to just answer three questions. What data has been found? So we have so many data. We must understand what are the data importances, and you have to separate the data. That's why if you don't know what is the importance of this data, then you are not able to analyze it. Then second question is, what is your interpretation of them? Interpretation of the data is very important. Otherwise, your discussion is not fulfilled. Do they prove or refute hypothesis? Refute means it is not related with actual argument with the literature survey. And hence, if you are able to answer these three questions, definitely you are able to write the thesis. And now we will come to the very important chapter, that is very important, that is results and discussions. So you are getting so many findings after data analysis. So we have to do the key findings of your work. So you have to justify your key findings in this research and results and analysis. So this section is very important, results and discussions. In this chapter, you have to explain key findings of your work. You should generally have enough material for this, as it is the core of your work. You must present the results appropriately. So results presentations are so many types, that is making charts, contour plots, you are making some tables, observation tables, result tables, pie charts, like that. So we have to prepare and representation of that. Many times experimental data can be represented in graphs, in the form of graphs containing data that need to be compared. For example, experimental data, analytical data, numerical data must be combined in the same figure so that the reader can directly compare the values. If you are explaining the graphs, in that graphs 3 to 4 graphs may be included in such a way that you can have the clear observation, you can have the clear discussion on that, so that you are able, also reader can explain, understand what you have comparisons, and you have to explain the comparisons. The quantity of information in one graph must be limited to distinguish the different symbols. When you are using different graphs in one different experimental graphs in one graph, then you have to use the symbols of one experimentation: square, second is by right, rectangle, triangle, like that. Otherwise, it is very confusing. Generally, we are preferring paragraphs. So paragraph should be not longer than 10 lines. So if you are writing your thesis in very lengthy paragraphs, so it is very difficult to read the your thesis, and hence particularly in result section and discussion section, you must prepare the paragraphs not longer than 10 sentences. Have the graphs axis. What you are doing when you want to prepare the graphs, so many students are not able to write x-axis, y-axis like that, and hence the graphs axis can be accurately named with proper units. Are there units in column headings of the tables? You have to explain each and everything in the your graphs must be understandable and visible. That is descriptive, and hence I want to explain the result very clearly. We have some uh, 11 things I want to explain in the result and discussion. When we want a very clear result and discussion, very interesting, then you must follow the 11 hints I will explain to you. This chapter address the result from your data analysis only. This chapter does not discuss other research literatures. Don't add other literature review in your result and discussion chapter. Many students, I observe that they are adding their result and discussion, and you are not able to explain your research or the implications of your findings. You can write an analysis of the test conducted during your experimentations. So you have to explain your test analysis during your experimentations. You can discuss the factors responsible for your results obtained. So the results are totally different. Then you have to explain why the result is totally different, because it is totally depending on the factors you are, or it may be depending on parameters. If you are changing the parameters, results may be different, and hence when you change the parameter, that may be mentioned in the result chapters. Now we come to the fifth of it. You can prepare respective tables in the result, respective figures to illustrate and summarize your results or informations. You can categorize your research work qualitatively and quantitatively. In the discussion part, discuss what your findings or results mean in relation to the theoretical body of knowledge on the topic of your project. Begin by discussing your findings or results in relation to the theoretical framework introduced in the literature review. Your findings must be matching with the literature review so that you can conclude your discussion very well. Ninth, in some cases, you may need to introduce new literatures, particularly in qualitative research. So it may not be available in the literatures, and you are creating your own literatures, and hence that your work is original, that you can prove it. In the discussion part, you can write about your findings, future requirements, your work practical implications. Would help if you mention the suggestions of your work in the development of engineering education and the industries. This is very important. So I have explained about all 11 points to you. These 11 points are very important. And if you are not mentioning and observing 11 points, then what is the result of your project? Your good quality thesis takes 10 to 12 months to complete. If you follow 11 instructions mentioned by me, then a good quality thesis takes 10 to 12 months to complete your project work. You should carefully edit and spell check your written work. There are two types of ending thesis. If you are editing your thesis, editing of thesis is very important. There are two types of editing of your thesis. First is micro thesis, micro editing, and macro editing. So I want to explain micro editing first. So what are the points we have to observe during micro? Micro means it is not in your mind, but it must be. It is very important. Correcting spelling. So if there is a lot of spelling mistake, it is very wrong. Grammatical errors, checking for proper paragraphs, checking for sentence structures, consistent use of verbs, variety in word choice. You have to use different words for same meaning. If you are using same word, let's say I found, then it is not suitable for your writing. This is a micro editings. So after completing micro editings, you have to go to macro editing. So what is meant by macro editing of this is it involves to edit or assess the overall structure of the thesis to make sure that each chapter flows logically correct from the previous chapter. So you have to link first chapter, that is introduction and literature review and methodology with results and discussion, like that. So during writing, you must check whether heading is proper or not, subheading is proper or not, whether you have selected headings, subheadings very correctly or not, and whether it is having there is consistency in writing. Macro editing also determines whether any parts of thesis need to be streamlined or expanded. Now, when you find it, I will come to again result and discussion. I will give because it is the main part of your thesis writing. The objective should be to make the reader aware of the critical parts of the results. Your results and discussion must be matching with your research gap, objectives, problem statements. The discussion should not merely state the obvious. It should make the reader understand why these results are essential and what they mean. And after ending of results and discussions, we have to summarize your discussion before conclusions. And hence, how to write summary, it is very important. This chapter briefly summarizes the entire work and points out the key conclusions we have obtained. And hence, you have to summarize. So you find what are the summary points. The conclusion should be crisp and not to elaborate. When you observe that after conclusions, future scope of your work is very important. The future scope of your work is either included in the conclusion chapter or maybe added as a separate chapter. You have to decide it. The future scope should not be too vague. You have to take precaution. It should not be too vague. It should be a natural extension of what you have already done. So presenting conclusions and recommendation. It is very important in conclusions. So many PhD students have to write conclusions in precise manner. So I want to explain how to present the conclusions and recommendations of the conclusions. So how you do? Many PhD candidates repeat results in the conclusions parts. What they do, they put same results in the conclusions. It is not allowed, and hence you have to write separate conclusions from the result part, and that should be result must not be repeated, but it must be summarized and related to the hypothesis or research question you have selected. Your research questions must be matching with the conclusions part. If it is not matching, the means you have not answered the research questions, and hence you have to clear for 3 important questions. I want to give you. So what are the 3 questions you have to answer it during writing the conclusions? How can you summarize the work? This is one question to you. How can you summarize the work? If you are not able to summarize your work, you cannot give the proper conclusions. Are there any actions and recommendation to take during writing conclusions? Was it all successful? So when you write the conclusions, you have to mention all research questions are successful or not. So if you answer all these questions, then your conclusions part is finished. I want to explain some of the justifications of the conclusions part. You have to justify the conclusions by writing summary of the entire thesis in few pages. So how to write the justification of the work? So you have to write 1 or 2 pages of justifications. The conclusions may be related to your literature review. This is very important. Mention some suggestion for future research also. If you have idea of future research, and but you are not able to complete that research idea, then you suggest some future research of your work. And hence come to the, already I have explained it, come to the references. So indicating the references is very important. Many times references are not mentioned properly. This give detail of all the papers cited in the thesis. There are several different standards for presenting them. In every country, in every university, there are, or you, in every publications, journals, there are different ways of writing references. You have to follow particular references, and hence you must know what are the different styles of writing references. I will not able to writing or explaining style of reference, but I want to explain there are some standards. You have to you are able to finding that standards. One must select an appropriate average and stick to it. If you are changing different styles of writing references, that is not good. There are ways of generating them automatically in MS Word, in the LaTeX, which is better to avoid mistakes. So during writing references, you select one of the reference and you put in MS Word, so that you cannot confused whether it is added, this reference is added in the references or not. In case it is being done manually, one must double check to ensure no paper cited in work is missed out from the references. If you are using references but that references is not indicated, that is not good. Whenever you are using the reference material, that must be cited in the references. If you are using books, journals, papers, other sources have been referred to throughout the work. So you have to find out whether it is indicating or not. The average thesis contains more than 100 references. References can be written in different ways according to that publications. Name of the author or authors, full title, the edition, if not mentioned, like edition number, maybe edition 2, 3, like that. The publisher name, date of publication, ISBN number, if any, page numbers, if specific, mentioned in the literature. Volume number, issue number, page numbers are necessary for journals and periodical. So now come to the, this is about thesis writing. So I have explained about thesis writing. Now, without planning, thesis writing is not possible. I want to give some idea about planning of thesis writing. In what way you are planning your thesis. So I want to explain thesis writing first. Planning of the thesis writing, I have not prepared the, last part is appendix. I have forgot it. Appendix is the last part. If you are not able to explain some of the part in the thesis writing, after conclusions, you can have some tables, critical results, calculations. You can have table in the appendix A, appendix B, like that. It is not compulsory, but it is not mandatory also, but it is, if you are mentioning it, it is very good. So many authors are able to create appendix on different area. So I want to explain the planning of thesis. So you must have the planning first. How do you plan of writing it from the first day of your PhD? So we have to plan. So planning of thesis writing from first day of your PhD work. So you have to create the timeline of the project writing. So if you are not having the timeline of project writing, then you are not able to complete your PhD thesis in proper time. You have to prepare the Gantt chart. Should be prepared for the scheduling of your thesis work. If you know what is meant by Gantt chart, then you are able to prepare the Gantt chart, and you have to give the particular time for the particular activity in the Gantt chart. And you have to mention the, and you have to able to prepare the research diary. Always from the first day of your PhD work, you have to prepare the research diary. Then in the per day work, you have to mention in the research diary a particular day what I have done. And you have to open that first day of your second day, like that. A to-do list is very important. Kya karna hai? So what is required? So 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, like that. First activity, second activity, third activity, like that. And writing progress is essential to complete writing. So according to the to-do list, you have to check whether my writing progress is going according to the to-do list, or and according to the Gantt chart, or according to the timeline, or not. Timetable must be prepared to complete your task. So you have to prepare the timetable for introduction, for each writing or reading. I will explain later on how to prepare the timetable. Divide your thesis writing work into different small work. Suppose time is required for writing thesis literature. So I will explain what is the small work of it. So you have to divide your thesis writing work into different small work, like the background of the thesis, what time is required for background of thesis, discussion with experts. Suppose you are preparing background of the thesis in 1 day or 2 day. So this is your timeline, and you are discussing that background with your experts. So what time is required for discussion, you have to note down. Then you have to write down what time is required for the correct literature review. So you are discussing that literature review with your supervisors. If you are not adding that time, discussion time, then again time is not matching. Meeting with a supervisor, per day meeting or weekly meeting, monthly meeting, you have to follow. Then after that, you have to mention the data collection time, writing the introduction, writing the aims, methodology, timing, data entry, preparation of the observation tables, analysis of data, selection of software for analysis, interpretation of data, writing results, preparation of charts, preparation of figures, preparation of flow charts, then presentation of results in proper format, critical analysis of research. Each and every activity we require the time, and this requirement of the time must be explained in the Gantt charts or in the timeline, and you have to progress according to that. Then what you are doing after that, compare your findings and results with international and national findings and results. So now we require some time for you comparing whether your data is correct or not, your results are correct or not, and you are correcting very uh, findings, important findings and results with Scopus index results, findings, and what time is required for comparing. It is very important. And you have to write if there are some differences in findings and results. If one data is different, second data is different, then you have to explain what are the reasons for differences, whether parameter differences or whether readings are differences, and we require some times for that. A limitation of the findings, because many times we cannot complete each and every findings. Then you have to mention some limitations of the findings, why you are not able to uh, find or getting that findings or results. Then you have to mention very clearly your limitations. If machines are not available, softwares are not available. If it is not available, then it is very clear. The reviewer can understand that you have some limitations. You have to explain some future research directions. You have to explain after one research direction, second direction, third direction, like that. Then we require some time for summary of the discussions. So if you have one discussion, second discussion, like that. Then we have to write final results. Some time is required for final results. Then if you get very clearly final results, then we require the time for proofreading. Proofreading is very important. If you are not having some proofreading, then and you are directly submitting, then a reviewer cannot understand, or that may be your project may be rejected, and hence proofreading is essential, and some time is required. So after proofreading your data, your each and everything, we are calling it as final draft. And you checked whether your final draft of thesis is correct or not. Then proper drafting of thesis writing. Then whether you have to check whether uh, your drafting is according to your university, according to your country, according to your supervisor or not. And hence you have to arrange your proper drafting. Then check grammars. You have to check grammars of from first from first page to last page. There should not be any grammatical mistakes. It requires time. Spelling mistake, it requires time. Contents of the writing, so you have to arrange the contents of the writing is very important. You have to arrange references, it requires times. You have to check the references and references number in the that is citation number, you are calling citation number from first page to last page. Then when you are having each and everything very correct, then you have to check the plagiarism. So we require some time for plagiarism check, time required for correction. Now you are submitting your chapters to the supervisors. So after a discussion with supervisors, supervisor will make some corrections, and some time is required for corrections given by the or that suggestion given by the addition deletions of the particular chapter, some sentences. Some time is required. It is also added in the thesis writing. You have to plan when to show the my work to the supervisors, and how I get correct uh, draft. Then when supervisors say that your draft is very correct, then you have to give your thesis for printing. So for printing also you will require some time, arrangement, editing, so that mm, that printer will take some time. Again, he make some mistakes. You have to find out whether that printer is that person is making correct or not. You have to check it. Then you require some time for submission of the report to the reviewer, to the university. So then your timeline is finished after submission of the report, and hence you have to take care. Now this is a timeline for that. I want to explain some very important point. If you are not taking proper care during writing, apart from above, ensure that the thesis is grammatically correct by using spell check. So we have to use Grammarly or another spell check software, very important. So grammar check software is very important. Use good quality images with properly labeled access. If if you have chosen some images for in your project and it is not visible, you are creating or you are losing some impressions, and hence why you are adding the bad quality images in your thesis, please delete it. And hence if you are not able to collect the images properly, then you collect it. Appropriate captions must be important for that. So decide on good formatting practice and ensure the formatting is consistent throughout. So good formatting practice we require, so that we have to link one paragraph to second paragraph, and you are ensuring whether my paragraph is consistent or not. This will ensure better readability, and thus the uh, chances of acceptance. So chances of acceptance is very important. If your project is not written properly, the project may be rejected. So I want to explain some. Please avoid what we have to avoid. I want to explain some suggestion. Poor use of English, poor organization, poor reasoning, poor methodological design, repeating established work, insufficient analysis, sloppy presentations, layout inconsistency, error or omissions in references. Always we have to avoid all things. Write your project PhD work very clearly so the average person can understand your work. Thesis writing is special skill. So this special skill is very important. So if you are not having special skills, then your project is or your thesis is not good. Every PhD candidate must develop that skill. PhD candidates can write their thesis correctly and scientifically. The methodology can be written so that it explains very clearly how to do it in very simple manner. So general understanding during writing, you have to explain the skills needed for the research, find the necessary literatures, do not assume anything. Your work must be quantitative, means it is in numbers, and measuring, and qualitative, means it has some qualities, descriptions, appearance. Choose your study area perfectly. So what is important general understanding is that focus on specific objectives and research questions, select the style of research, organize your research writing chapter wise, prepare and write your carefully research techniques and instruments used during research, list out collected data and arrange those data properly, sort out data as per the area of work, interpretation and analysis of the collected data very accurately, write your investigation done. What are the theme, purpose, and main objectives of your research is very important. So write it in a proper or better way. What is thesis or for research writing? It is very important. Avoid vagueness while writing in the thesis. Avoid these words like have a look at, try to, see if, like that. Be positive during writing. Aim of research is very important. It is essential and must be written very carefully. Always ask this question yourself: what is this research for? Clarify your research question, understand what is specifically required, critically assess your proposals. Visual summarize such as graphs, pie charts, and bar charts are helpful and attractive, and especially in colorful. So plagiarism is very important. Plagiarism is the under acknowledgement use of someone's writing or intellectual property as one's own. All universities and colleges regard it as gross misconduct, or many it implies dismissal for the course. Thesis proofreading is already I have explained. So spelling, grammar, punctuations, incorrect formatting on the computer, wrong number of pages written. Many a times you are mentioning number, but it is written wrongly. So some words are missing during proofreading, wrong references, cover page errors by the binder. So during binder is taking lot of mistakes. Summary of writings I already have explained. So I will stop here.
Thank you so much, sir. It has been a very informative presentation, and I am very much sure that our participants have attained a very clear idea about how to write a proper research paper and research thesis. I'm very much grateful to you for this relevant for explaining on this relevant topic. Now the session is open, and if anyone is having any kind of queries, they please feel free to ask questions. Anyone?
So those who are pursuing PhD, it is very or MTech, it is very important for them how to write thesis. So you
Yes, sir.
Already I have
This is of
explained from
importance.
first day. It
Yes.
is very important. Particularly planning of the thesis is very important.
Yes, sir. That is very important. Its relevance is very important. Anyone wants to ask any question to sir?
Already I have given email ID to on my first presentation slide. So you,
Yes,
you
sir.
can note down and you can discuss in with me
Yes.
anytime.
All right. Anyone wants to ask? Yes, sir. There is someone who wants to ask a question. Okay, Mr. Kosa, you can ask.
Yes. Good evening, ma'am.
Good
I
evening.
don't want to ask any question, but I do have to say something that it was such a wonderful session. All the doubts that, whatever little doubts that we had regarding thesis writing and regarding everything connected with thesis writing, it was all very clear. So it was a wonderful session, and I want to thank the resource person for that.
Thank you so much. Anyone else who has some kind of doubt, who wants to ask something, be it from social sciences or from sciences?
So one care must taken, because thesis writing is totally different for engineering, for arts, commerce, or even also for business. Already I have, so sir has conducted
Yes, sir.
business research. So there must be some changes in the thesis writing according to your branch, your discipline, your area.
Yes, sir. You have told about somebody has to- Feel free to ask your question.
Uh, Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Uh, Sir, can we have your recorded lecture?
You can ask to the organizer.
See, Neeraj, we will talk to the knowledge organizers about it.
Okay, okay. If it is possible, that we will feel very enlightened to have Sudhakar sir's like recorded lecture. It's very beneficial to us.
All right. We'll try a level best.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sir, good evening, sir.
Right.
Yes. Good evening.
Sir, this is Annapurani. Good evening, madam. I have one
Good
doubt regarding topic, sir. If we start writing, means I have some doubts regarding the topic. So how to choose the topic for the
So
thesis?
yes. So particularly when you see the movie, the producer think about the title of the movie. If the title of the movie is so impressive, the people will attract. So similarly, your project must be very attractive, and you can say it is a good thesis. So reviewer, then reader must attract to your thesis work. Sometimes you get the research award also, writing good writing thesis. So if you want award for good writing thesis, so this is a very good for the selection of topic. Already I have mentioned the criteria for that. So you have to select the topic in such a way that your interest and your research must be matching with that. Otherwise, it is very difficult. If you are not understanding your own research, how do you select the topic? So, significance of the topic is very important. What is significance? So, significance of the topic. So, we have some significance of your area. Already, I have explained the significance. Have you noted that points, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So significance of the project is very important for selecting your topic. So I will repeat it that if you permit me. So
Yes, sir.
significance.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Already I have closed it. So these are the very important points for you. Your contribution to developing new theory, because many times it is a copy and paste PhD. And most important is that you have to develop new theory. So this is the very significant work. If you are not able to develop new theory, then your work is not good. Second is if you are using old state literature, then you have to test it by your own way. Then according to testing, you have to give the title page. Whether you are using new principles in your theory. If you are using new principles, according to the new principles of your work, you have to give some names. Then there are some challenges. Suppose you have some challenges in the assumptions. If you have so many challenges and you are able to find out the solutions for your assumptions, then you are getting the correct title of it. Then development of any mathematical model, mathematical phenomena. If the project is mathematical model, And other last is recent developments. So if you are using any very good recent developments, let us say in case of electric vehicles, so you are doing research in electric vehicles, you have to develop the recent developments in electric vehicles, let us say battery management, thermal managements, cooling of the batteries, cooling of the electric motors, control of the vehicles, like that. And hence according to that you have to give the titles. And you have generally during selection of the title, you must have generally 3 to 4 areas. You give the names according to that, and you select from 3 to 4 names, appropriate name. So this name may be at the end of thesis writing, okay, because it is not fixed. When you write the abstract after completion of thesis, you write the correct title, and you take the precaution it should not be too lengthy. I have explained that it should not be more than 15 words, and it should not be question. Title should not be in question form, because you are not able to ask question to the reviewer or reader.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for your explanation, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
So, madam,
Anyone else from the participants?
are you pursuing PhD?
So I've already, you're asking me, sir?
No, Sri madam, no, sir.
Sri ma'am, the question is for you. Are you pursuing PhD, sir is asking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So particularly selecting title is thrust area. So what is your thrust area? जैसे मुझे काम करना है. Are you understanding Hindi?
No, sir. I can't understand Hindi. I know English.
So,
my study area feminism, sir.
So you have the thrust of selecting your area. Otherwise, it is very difficult to complete PhD in time.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So why? Because I have some more dilemma between the titles. So maybe I just selected 1 or 3 or 4. After that, I just confused regarding one title. So that's why I am asking you, sir.
So generally what happens now during the selection of title, so your thrust area, and there may be some existing knowledge gap. So you have to find out what is my knowledge gap in the writing, because so many area I don't know during writing. So that is our weak point. So you have to do the SWOT analysis for each and everything. What is my strength? What is my weakness? Okay, for that you have to have thrust area, and during, if you are doing your area is in thrust area, what is your area that you defined it?
Sir, existentialism, feminism, sir.
Okay, that is you are liking that area. Then
yes,
there should not be any relevant knowledge gap. If you have a knowledge gap now, then you cannot produce your thesis in time.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay.
So you follow some rules during writing PhD thesis. Otherwise, it takes 5 years, 3 years, more than 6 years, like that.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay, sir. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Completion of thesis time is very important. That's why I explained timeline. So timeline is very important.
Okay.
Are you preparing your research diary? Research diary is very important.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I hereafter I would follow for you.
So what I have done today and what I want to do tomorrow. So that we have to maintain diary. If it is not done today, why it is not done today? So you have to mention the reasons. Otherwise, you are delaying your project writing.
Okay, sir.
So thank you, madam, for discussing with me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Anyone else? Feel free to ask your questions. I think, sir, we are done.
Okay.
All right. I must thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for enshrining us with the relevance of planning in thesis writing. You have very elaborately explained about the concept of thesis, the theme of the project, What is the meaning of research and importance of hypothesis generation and design and execution of crucial experiments? How to select a topic for research? What is the importance of literature? What is the significance of study and the available data? What will be the structure of the? I was listening to your lecture and I was sitting and I was just noting down the important points. It is also beneficial for me also. The structure of the thesis. What are the mandatory pages of in the thesis? What is the importance of abstracts in research? The general implications of the work. What to write in introduction and in other chapters. What is the importance of purpose in a chapter? And you also gave 11 hints for result and discussion, which was very much important, sir. And I think that is for the first time we came to know about these 11 hints, and we'll keep it in our mind. So thank you so very much, sir, for enlightening us in such an in-depth manner with this concept, because this is the most important thing, or I must say the backbone of the higher education system at the moment. I wish you a very great evening and all the very best for your future endeavors, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, participants, listening my lecture carefully.